The nurse wouldn't meet my eyes when she came in with the clipboard. My legs were still numb under the white blanket. The incision across my lower abdomen felt like it had a zipper made of fire. And the billing woman standing behind her kept whispering into a phone, like I was already a problem they needed removed. Then my mother's text lit up on the tray beside my morphine button. "Your sister needs that money more. Don't make this ugly." 2 hours later, a man in a charcoal suit walked into my hospital room, paid the entire $310,000 balance, placed my grandmother's sealed letter on my bed, and said, "Read the last page before they find out I'm here." My name is Natalie Mercer. I'm 33 years old. I thought my parents had abandoned me in that hospital because I was expensive, but my grandmother's letter proved they had been stealing from me long before I ever went under anesthesia. 3 days earlier, I had gone in for what was supposed to be a complicated but routine surgery to remove a tumor wrapped around part of my ovary and bowel. Not cancer, thank God, but dangerous enough that my surgeon, Dr. Elena Crow, had looked at me over her glasses and said, "You need someone with you afterward. This isn't a rideshare situation." I remember laughing because that was easier than admitting I had already asked my family twice. My father, Dennis Mercer, said he had a conference. My mother, Pauline Mercer, said my sister had a hard week. My sister, Brooke Mercer, was 31 years old and had never had a week that wasn't hard when someone else needed attention. So I arranged everything myself: pre-op forms, emergency contact, time off from my job managing donor relations at a children's literacy nonprofit. I even stocked my freezer with soup in labeled containers, because that's what I did. I prepared for pain quietly so nobody had to feel inconvenienced by it. The morning of surgery, my mother showed up 15 minutes late with a coffee in one hand and her phone in the other. "You look pale," she said, as if I had chosen it. "I'm scared," I told her. She glanced toward the hallway. "Don't start crying, Natalie. It makes people uncomfortable." That was my mother's specialty, turning my fear into bad manners. She stayed until they wheeled me away. Right before the doors opened, she leaned down and kissed my forehead, and for one stupid second I let myself feel like somebody's daughter. Then she whispered, "Brooke called. She's upset you scheduled this during her engagement month." I was already drifting from the sedative, but I remember that sentence clearly. Engagement month. Not day, not party, month. When I woke up, she was gone. At first, I thought maybe she had gone to get food. Then the nurse said my father had called and said my parents wouldn't be returning until the next afternoon. Brooke was having a panic spiral because her fiancé's mother had made a comment about her dress. I had staples in my stomach. Brooke had hurt feelings in a bridal salon. Guess which one got the family? The first night was a blur of alarms, dry mouth, and a pain so sharp it made me bargain with the ceiling tiles. Around 4 a.m., I reached for my phone and saw a photo in our family group chat. Brooke in a satin robe, holding champagne. My mother's caption said, "Our baby needed us tonight. Family first." I stared at the words until the screen went black. Family first, not daughter first, not sick child first, not the one cut open on a hospital bed first, just family, which in our house had always meant Brooke. The next morning, the billing office came in. They said my insurance had been terminated. I thought it was a mistake. My grandmother, Ruth Callahan, had left funds specifically for my medical coverage after she died 8 months earlier. My parents had insisted they would handle the paperwork because I was grieving and overwhelmed. My mother had looked me in the eye at Grandma Ruth's funeral luncheon, with mascara still smudged under her lashes, and said, "Let us take care of you for once." For once. I should have heard the warning inside that. Now a woman in navy scrubs was explaining that the supplemental policy tied to my surgery had been canceled 2 weeks before the procedure. 2 weeks. Not accidentally expired. Canceled. By whom? I asked. She hesitated. Then she said, "The authorized account manager on file." My mother. I called her 6 times. She didn't answer. I called my father, straight to voicemail. Then I texted, "Mom, the hospital says my coverage was canceled. I can't walk. What did you do?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then came the answer. "Your sister needs that money more. Don't make this ugly." I read it once, then again. The room made a sound around me, like all the air had been pulled through the vents at once. That was when I understood I wasn't just the forgotten daughter. I was the account they emptied when the favorite one wanted something. I didn't cry when I saw my mother's text. That surprised me most. My body was full of tubes, bruises, stitches, and drugs, but something inside me went perfectly still, like the part of me that had spent 33 years hoping had finally bled out on its own. The billing woman said, "Ms. Mercer, we're not discharging you today, but we do need to discuss responsibility for payment." Responsibility? I almost laughed. "My mother canceled it," I whispered. The woman looked away. That confirmed it more than any words could have. After they left, I tried calling Grandma Ruth's old lawyer. I didn't even know if he was still practicing. His name was buried somewhere in my email from the will reading, but my hands were shaking so badly I kept mistyping. Callahan Estate, Mercer Trust, Ruth Lawyer. Finally, I found it. Arthur Bell, Esquire. I called, expecting a receptionist. A man answered on the second ring. "Bell, my name is Natalie Mercer," I said. "Ruth Callahan was my grandmother." Silence. Then his voice changed. "Where are you?" I told him the hospital. "What room?" My throat tightened. "Why?" "Because if you're calling me now, then something has gone wrong." That was when I cried. Not loud, not dramatically. Just tears sliding sideways into my hair while I told a stranger my parents had canceled my medical coverage, that the hospital was asking questions, that my mother said Brooke needed the money more. Arthur Bell did not interrupt once. When I finished, he said, "Do not sign anything. Do not authorize anyone to speak on your behalf. Do not tell your parents you called me." "Why?" "Because your grandmother expected this." The words were so impossible that for a moment the pain disappeared. "What?" "She hoped she was wrong," he said, "but she prepared as if she wasn't." He arrived less than 2 hours later. Arthur Bell was older than I expected, maybe 70, with silver hair combed neatly back and a leather briefcase that looked older than me. He spoke to the charge nurse first, then to billing, then to someone on speaker in a conference room down the hall. I heard my name. I heard fraudulent cancellation. I heard estate violation and immediate settlement. 20 minutes later, he entered my room. "The balance is handled," he said. I blinked. "What do you mean, handled?" "Paid in full from funds that should never have been touched by your parents." $310,000? "Yes." I couldn't breathe around it. "I don't have that kind of money." "You do," he said gently. "You always did." Then he placed a cream envelope on my blanket. My name was written across the front in Grandma Ruth's slanted handwriting. Natalie Rose. I touched it like it might vanish. Grandma had been the only person in my family who saw me without needing me to shrink first. She came to every school play, even when I was a tree. She mailed me $20 before every final exam with a note that said, "For coffee and courage." When I got my first apartment, she brought me a toolbox and said, "Never wait for someone else to fix what you can learn." At her funeral, Brooke cried the loudest. I cried in the bathroom because my mother had asked if I could hold it together for the guests. Arthur nodded toward the envelope. "She instructed me to give this to you only if your parents interfered with your care, housing, employment, inheritance, or safety." My safety? His jaw tightened. "Read the last page first." That's a strange instruction. It was hers. I opened the envelope with clumsy fingers. Inside was a thick handwritten letter and several folded documents. I turned to the final page. The first line made my heart stop. "Natalie, if Arthur is giving you this, your mother has finally done something I could not forgive." Below that, Grandma had written, Do not go home with them. Do not let them recover your phone, purse, laptop, keys, or identification. Pauline will cry. Dennis will threaten. Brooke will become helpless. Remember this. They are not panicking because you are hurt. They are panicking because they have been caught. I looked up at Arthur. He said quietly, "Your grandmother placed the majority of her estate in a protected trust for you." "For me?" I whispered. He nodded. "Your parents were never supposed to control it. They were temporary administrators for one limited account only, your medical reserve, because Ruth thought it would be harder for them to justify touching medical funds." I let out a broken laugh. She underestimated them. "No," Arthur said. "She set a trap." Before I could ask what he meant, my phone buzzed. Mom, then Dad, then Brooke. One after another. Arthur looked at the screen and said, "They found out I'm here." My phone kept vibrating until it slid off the tray and hit the floor. Arthur picked it up before I could move. "May I?" I nodded. He didn't answer. He turned it face down on the blanket. "Do they know about the trust?" I asked. "They know enough to be afraid." The hallway outside my room suddenly felt too quiet. Then I heard my mother's voice at the nurse's station. "She is my daughter. I have every right to see her." Arthur straightened. "Remember what your grandmother wrote." A minute later, my door swung open. My mother came in first, wearing her expensive camel coat and the expression she used at church when someone offered her store-bought pie. My father followed, red-faced and stiff. Brooke came last, crying already. "Natalie," Mom breathed, "what have you done?" I stared at her. Not, "How are you feeling?" Not, "I'm sorry, what have you done?" Arthur stepped between her and my bed. "Mrs. Mercer, Mr. Mercer, this is not a good time." My father jabbed a finger at him. "You had no authority to interfere." "I had every authority," Arthur said. "Unlike you." Brooke made a wounded sound. "Nat, why would you call a lawyer? Mom was handling everything." "She canceled my insurance while I was recovering from surgery." Mom's face tightened. "That is not what happened." I held up my phone with the text open. "Your sister needs that money more." For the first time in my life, my mother had no immediate answer. Dad recovered for her. "You don't understand finances. Brooke's wedding deposits were non-refundable." Something inside me went cold. "You used my surgery money for wedding deposits." Brooke sobbed harder. "It wasn't like that. I was humiliated. Graham's family thinks we're poor." "You are poor," Arthur said sharply. "If you need to steal from a post-operative patient to impress in-laws." My mother snapped. "How dare you speak to my daughter that way?" I laughed once. It hurt so badly I grabbed my incision. "Which daughter?" The room froze. Mom looked at me then, really looked, maybe because I had finally said the quiet thing out loud. "You have always resented Brooke," she said. "No, I resented being sacrificed for her." Dad leaned closer. "Enough. You're drugged and emotional. We're taking you home before this man poisons you further." Arthur moved to the door. "She will not be leaving with you." "I am her father." "She is 33. She's incapacitated." Arthur opened his briefcase and removed a document. "Dr. Crow evaluated her mental capacity this morning. She is alert, oriented, and legally competent." My mother's eyes flashed. "You planned this." "No," Arthur said. "Ruth did." At Grandma's name, Brooke's crying stopped. Mom whispered, "That old woman had no right." And there it was. Not grief, not love, rage. Arthur turned to me. "Natalie, would you like them removed?" My father barked, "Don't you dare." My pulse pounded in my ears. Every childhood Christmas where Brooke got the bigger gift. Every birthday dinner rescheduled because she had a mood. Every emergency I solved alone because being low maintenance had become my assigned personality. I looked at the nurse standing wide-eyed in the doorway. "Yes," I said. "I want them removed." Mom's face crumpled instantly. "Baby, please. We were trying to protect the family." I looked down at Grandma's last page. Pauline will cry. Dennis will threaten. Brooke will become helpless. Grandma had known them like scripture. Security arrived. My father argued all the way down the hall. Brooke shouted that I was ruining her life. My mother said nothing until she reached the doorway. Then she turned back and smiled. It wasn't sad. It was warning. "You have no idea what your grandmother really did," she said. After they were gone, Arthur shut the door. My hands were shaking again. What did she mean? He sat beside my bed and pulled another packet from the envelope. "Your grandmother kept records," he said. "Bank transfers, forged signatures, property liens. Your parents didn't just steal the medical reserve." "How much?" Arthur hesitated. "Tell me." "Over 18 years, approximately $1.4 million. The number didn't feel real. It sounded like weather on another planet. "From me?" "From assets Ruth designated for you. College funds, investment accounts, proceeds from the sale of her lake house. Your parents reported some as family expenses, some as loans, some simply vanished." I felt sick. But why would Grandma leave them in charge? "She didn't," Arthur said. "Not after you turned 25. But Pauline convinced you to sign a financial authorization when you were caring for Ruth after her stroke." I remembered a stack of papers on Mom's kitchen table. "Just routine, honey. It helps us pay Grandma's bills." Arthur's voice softened. "You trusted your mother." My eyes burned. He handed me the packet. On top was a photocopy of a check. Pay to the order of Brooke Mercer. Memo, Natalie Medical Reserve. Amount $85,000, dated 13 days before my surgery. Arthur said, "That one paid for the wedding venue." I stared at the check until the numbers blurred. $85,000 for flowers, chandeliers, imported champagne, while I had been signing consent forms that listed bowel perforation, blood loss, and death. "She knew," I whispered. Arthur didn't ask who. Brooke had texted me the week before surgery. "Can you please not make Mom stressed right now? My venue deadline is insane." I'd apologized to her. Apologized. Dr. Crow came in an hour later and found me sitting upright, pale and sweating, with financial crimes spread across my blanket. "This," she said, "is not part of recovery." Arthur began gathering the papers, but I grabbed Grandma's letter. "Just let me read it." Dr. Crow looked at my face, then sighed. 10 minutes. Then pain meds and sleep. Betrayal can wait, sepsis cannot. After she left, I read from the beginning. "My darling Natalie, if you are reading this, I failed to stop them gently. That line broke me more than the money. Grandma wrote that she had noticed missing funds years earlier, small at first. My mother had explanations. Tuition gaps, emergency repairs, tax confusion. Grandma wanted to believe her daughter wasn't capable of stealing from her granddaughter. Then my college scholarship money disappeared. I remembered that fight. I had gotten a partial scholarship to a private university 2 states away. 2 weeks before move-in, Mom told me the remaining funds were gone because markets crashed, and I needed to attend community college and help with Brooke. Brooke had just been cut from cheerleading and was fragile. Grandma wrote, "I confronted Pauline. She cried until Dennis threatened to keep me from both my granddaughters. I backed down. That was my shame. I pressed the page to my chest. She tried," Arthur said softly. "She was sick." She was also angry. The letter continued. Grandma had hired forensic accountants. She changed her estate plan. She created the trust. But she needed proof my parents would endanger me, not just exploit me, before Arthur could trigger emergency protections without a court delay. My surgery became the proof. "They chose Brooke's wedding over your life," Arthur said. "Legally, that matters." My phone lit again. This time, it was a message from an unknown number. "Natalie, this is Graham. Brooke is hysterical. Your parents say you're accusing them of theft because of anesthesia. Please call me." I showed Arthur. "Do you trust him?" he asked. "I barely know him." "Then answer in writing." So I typed with shaking thumbs. Graham. My parents canceled medical coverage for my surgery and used funds from my grandmother's trust for Brooke's wedding. My attorney has documentation. Do not contact me again unless it is through counsel. 3 minutes passed. Then Graham replied, "What trust?" Arthur raised an eyebrow. I almost smiled. By sunset, Brooke's engagement month was on fire. Graham's mother apparently demanded receipts. The venue called my father. My mother called everyone she knew to say I was having a mental break. My boss received an email from Dad claiming I had abused prescription medication and might be stealing from the nonprofit. That one made Arthur's expression go flat. "Defamation," he said. "In writing. Convenient." By morning, he had filed notices freezing the remaining trust accounts. He also arranged a private rehab facility for my recovery because, as Grandma's letter warned, they will try to retrieve you where they can control the story. But the worst hit came at noon. A police officer arrived. For one wild second, I thought they were finally there for my parents. Instead, the officer said, "Ms. Mercer, we received a report that you unlawfully accessed family financial records and threatened your sister." My mouth went dry. Arthur stood. "From whom?" "Pauline Mercer." Of course. Mom had called the police on me from my hospital bed. The officer looked uncomfortable as Arthur calmly handed over his card, my capacity evaluation, the trust documents, the canceled coverage confirmation, and my mother's text. The officer read silently. Then he looked at me with something like pity. "I'll update the report," he said. Arthur stopped him at the door. "Please note that my client is post-operative and that Mrs. Mercer attempted to use law enforcement to intimidate a witness and victim." The officer nodded once. "Noted." After he left, I finally slept. When I woke, there was one voicemail from my mother. Her voice was soft, tender even. "Natalie, sweetheart, you don't understand what Ruth did to this family. She poisoned you against us. Come home and we'll explain everything. If you keep going, your father could lose his license. Brooke could lose Graham, and I could lose the house." A pause. Then the real her slipped through. "Is that what you want? To destroy your mother?" I deleted it. Arthur smiled for the first time. "Good," he said. "Now we start." Arthur didn't start with a lawsuit. He started with sunlight. He opened every curtain in that recovery room and said, "People like your parents thrive in closed rooms. We will be doing this in the open." Within 48 hours, my father's employer had copies of the forged authorizations connected to his professional license. My mother's bank received notice of suspected elder financial abuse and trust fraud. Brooke's wedding planner, venue, and florist all received legal demand letters requiring them to preserve payment records. Brooke called me from Graham's phone. I answered because Arthur nodded. "You ruined everything," she hissed. I looked at the IV bruise on my hand. "No, I stopped paying for it. You don't even need all that money. I needed my medical coverage." A silence, then smaller, uglier. "You always made being sick dramatic." I hung up. That was the last time I heard my sister's voice for 8 months. The consequences came slowly, then all at once. Graham ended the engagement after his family's attorney confirmed the venue deposit came from funds marked for my medical reserve. Brooke moved back into my parents' house and posted vague quotes online about betrayal. My father was suspended pending investigation. My mother tried to sell the house. Arthur stopped it because Grandma Ruth had documented that part of the down payment came from money stolen from my trust. Mom sent me one final email after that. No subject line. Just, "I hope you're happy." For once, I didn't answer. Happiness wasn't what I felt. At first, I felt hollow. Recovery hurt, walking hurt, sleeping hurt, telling the truth hurt. I spent weeks in rehab learning how to stand straight again while lawyers untangled 18 years of theft. Some nights, I missed the idea of my mother so badly I almost called her. Then I would reread the last page of Grandma's letter. They are not panicking because you are hurt. They are panicking because they have been caught. So I healed, not gracefully, not quickly, but honestly. By the following spring, the trust had been restored through frozen assets, settlements, and the sale of property my parents could no longer protect. Criminal charges were still moving through court, but I stopped measuring my life by their punishment. Arthur helped me buy Grandma Ruth's old lake house back. The first day I unlocked the door, dust floated through the sunbeams like tiny white feathers. Her yellow curtains were gone. The porch sagged. The kitchen smelled faintly of cedar and thyme. But in the hall closet, I found the toolbox she had given me years before, still labeled in her handwriting. Natalie's. Don't borrow without asking. I sat on the floor and cried until I laughed. 6 months later, I hosted my first dinner there. Not for my parents. For Dr. Crow, the nurse who slipped me extra pudding when I couldn't eat, my boss who ignored my father's email and sent flowers instead, Arthur, and 3 friends I'd been too embarrassed to ask for help before. Arthur brought pie. Store-bought. Grandma would have judged him for it. After dinner, I walked down to the dock alone with her letter, folded in my sweater pocket. The lake was dark blue, the color of old glass, and the wind moved across it like a hand smoothing wrinkled fabric. For years, I thought being loved meant being easy to ignore. Grandma's final gift wasn't the money, it was proof. Proof that someone had seen me, protected me, planned for the day I would finally stop apologizing for surviving. I stood at the edge of that dock, one hand over my scar, one hand around her letter, and watched the first porch light of my own home glow behind me. If my grandmother's sealed letter found me before my parents did, subscribe and stay with me, because I'm finally telling the truth they paid $310,000 to hide. If this story stayed with you, tell me in the comments what you would have done in my place. And if you want more stories like this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel.